Okay, we are going live on Facebook. Let me arrange some things here. Okay, we look like we are live. This is Dale Callahan with Ask Dr. Callahan, and we're here talking today about responsibility. So one of the things we do in our company, we provide a lot of solutions, especially for the homeschool market, for math and science, STEM careers as we might call them, STEM being science, technology, engineering, mathematics, some of your highest paying career fields out there. And we know a lot of parents are heading that direction. They're educating their kids at home so that they can go and get them educated somewhere else and go out there and provide a great living. But one of the things we run into so often, not only in the K through 12 markets that we see, but in the higher ed market, is responsibility for education. So one of the things I really want to emphasize to you, no matter what you are doing, you personally are doing, or you're trying to prepare your children for, is you own it. It's a responsibility. Education is ownership. Just like owning a home or a car or a business or something like that. Matter of fact, it's a lot like owning a business. Education is ownership. You own it. Now, I say it that way because we at the university, people are always saying things like, I need to go get an education. I need to get a better education. My children need to get an education. What do we mean by that? What they mean by that is they want to go pay a university to educate them. That's awesome for us because, hey, we have a service and we're glad that you want to pay us. But you own it. Even after you get the education, you take it away, you have ownership. Whoever got the education owned it. The university doesn't own it. But the thing that we miss is they don't even own the pathway to education. We see a lot of people who go out there and can get educated through books or through Google or through Vimeo or YouTube. There's massive amounts of education out there. The university doesn't control it. The homeschool market doesn't control it. Private, public, any kind of education system doesn't control it. You own it. You control it. And as a parent, we have the responsibility to control it. We have the freedom to control it. So if you think about everything, education is part of what we do. It's not a task, by the way. We always hear about it as, I just got to do this and get this education. It's just like it's something we do and we check it off. No, it's continuing to grow. Education is a lifelong task or a set of tasks. It's a lifelong learning. It never ends. As a matter of fact, in the schools of engineering, one of the principles in the U.S. School of Engineering is that this is one of the three big ones. One of the three big ones is that when we teach engineers that they have an appreciation for the need for lifelong learning. That's part of our principle that we're trying to teach inside the university is even after we've slapped a degree on somebody and they send them out there to do engineering in the world, they still have to learn. It might be back with us, but it's probably going to be through books, through seminars, through webinars, through on-the-job training, all kinds of things. We have to continue to learn. You own education. And you yourself, when you look in the mirror, you're looking at an ownership of an education, whatever education you have. And when you look at your children, you're looking at the responsibility that you own the education that you're helping them get right now. You're responsible for making that happen. The second thing we want to go after you can get around in your head that you own this is it has many benefits, right? It's kind of like buying a house. It has benefits. It should provide you, cover from rain and wind and comforts of living, and might even be an asset and go up in value. So a home has benefits. So does an education. Number one, we typically think of is increasing our salary. That's what most people show up at the university for, is to increase the salary. When you pay $100,000 for it, yeah, it probably needs to have a return on investment. I would think that's probably right-minded to think about that. If you think about education, the higher ed education in the past, it was a luxury. You had to have a lot of money to go and ponder things and get educated at the university. Not today. Today it's a path for more income. So it's a different model than it used to be. You can criticize that, but that's one of the things that the university system tends to focus on. Not only the university, but other things. But education does have a benefit of income, but it also has the benefit of keeping you from being a foolish citizen. Now, some might argue what goes on in educational systems is we actually create foolish citizens, and we can argue that, but they're actually learning enough about history. And again, I'm not saying that's what happens at the university. Education as a whole, learning about history, learning about government, learning about economics, that you can make decisions on who to vote for, that you can make decisions on how to be a prosperous and functional citizen that's actually moving your culture forward. It's one of the big benefits of education, and it's one of the ones that's not as tangible. The other benefit of education is just to be able to enjoy things, understanding things in the arts and the sciences, what we might call it the liberal arts fields. There is a lot of value to those kind of things and just understanding, because what we tend to think about is we tend to package things in nice little boxes. Here's the sciences, here's the maths, here is the liberal arts fields, and many other things, psychology, all the social sciences, but they go together. One of the things we fight against in engineering is we are always trying to separate, the world seems to separate science and math. Well, they don't separate. They're part of the same thing, but so are all these other fields. So education, again, no matter where it comes from, adds these values. So the third thing here, you own the education. It does bring you a lot of value, but it's always your responsibility. Always your responsibility. It never goes away. It's like owning a home. And those of you that are homeowners, you know that there's always something breaking. My wife has a constant list of things that she wants done. And I said, well, if you'll quit breaking things in the house, we can get forward and start doing some other things. But that doesn't really work that way, does it? There's always something breaking. And that's part of responsibility. That's part of ownership. When you're renting something, you call somebody to come fix it. Or they don't fix it and you just put up with it. If you rented an education, you have no responsibility. But you don't have the benefits of ownership either. So if we think again about education is your responsibility, if you're sitting there thinking that the government or some company or some university or anything else is going to provide for you or your child's education, then you have become part of the entitlement society. You're letting somebody else take their responsibility. We can argue whether that's good or bad, but I'll just tell you from your perspective, that's bad. You have now given ownership over to somebody else, and now you no longer control it. You are renting your education. You can't do that. I don't care whether it's homeschool, whether it's public school, whether it's private school, whether it's on-the-job training. You own it, and your child owns it. One of the things, the big thing that we want to do in our homeschool is to teach our children a love for learning, to constantly be wanting to learn. That's what we hope you're doing. That's part of the core principles of the schools of engineering in the United States, is to teach this lifelong mentality about learning, that you cannot quit learning, that you have to do that. That's a core principle. One of the three, again, of the core principles. So I want to encourage you, as you're sitting there struggling in homeschooling, and probably many of you are planning out next year, or you're looking at public, private, hybrid schools. We just have so many options today. We have people can sit down in front of the computer and just learn all kinds of fields from major universities around the world. You own this. You and your son or daughter can sit down together and develop a plan to educate them to the path that they want to be on. You don't need to rely on what somebody else says. I mean, you take advice, you take counsel, but you don't need to rely on a college or university says this. You don't need to rely on this book says this. You have to look at what's the right path of education for your son or your daughter, and for yourself. For yourself. I spend most of my days educating professional people with 2 to 30 years of industry experience. And we're constantly looking at What do they need to know? What education do they have to get to move to the next level? It's really no different than having them at 5, 6, 7 years old than at 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. It's the same kind of problems. What education do they need to get? So you and I, we need to take the responsibility for the education, for our own education, and the responsibility for the education of our children. Because to take the responsibility for your education is to take responsibility for your future. Hey, if we can help you here at Ask Dr. Callahan, we have some products in math and sciences. Love to help. But hey, shoot us an email. We'd love to some feedback here on Facebook. We hear a lot from you, and thank you so much. We hear most of you from email, and that's great too. You can reach us at support@AskDrCallahan.com. You can reach me at dcallahan@AskDrCallahan.com. Again, you can reach us here on Facebook. Glad to be with you. We're going to go back and try to do these things twice a week on Tuesday and on Thursday. So be looking out, and I'd love to hear from you what you want to hear from us. Have a great one. Thank you.